Today on Retire with Purpose, the no regrets retirement plan, misunderstood retirement planning tools, and how to get a disinterested spouse involved in your financial future.
Welcome to Retire with Purpose, a show specifically designed to help you maximize your financial confidence in retirement. Casey Weade is the CEO and Chief Visionary of Howard Bailey Financial, a certified financial planner and Wall Street Journal best-selling author. He's your host on Retire with Purpose.
It's great to see you again. But if you're new here, I'm Lee Kelso, and this is Casey Weade, certified financial planner. He's the president of Howard Bailey Financial and also the host of the Retire with Purpose podcast. And one of the things about the Retire with Purpose concept that makes it a little bit different is you really talk a lot about not just the financial side, but the mindset approach to retirement.
Right, we talk about the most important side of retirement, the non-financial aspects of retirement. And that's why many of the individuals we interview, I would say almost half of the individuals we interview have to do more with the psychology of retirement, or just those softer sides of retirement. One of those individuals we brought on the show on episode number 186 was Robert Laura, also likes to be called Bob. And so we got Bob Laura that brought us on. He's a self-proclaimed retirement activist, where he believes we truly need to change our idea of what retirement really is. You may have caught one of his nationally syndicated columns in Forbes or maybe even Financial Advisor magazine. And what he talks about extensively is the no regrets retirement plan. You may have even read one of his books. He's an author of several different books, one of those being known as Naked Retirement. Off the top here, we want to share a clip with you where Bob shares with us why we need to change our idea about what retirement is.
It's such an important point because retirement doesn't eliminate work, it reorients it. And that's what people get wrong. So work doesn't go away. You just have to work on different things. You have to work on your health, your relationships, finding purpose, staying engaged, staying connected. And it takes work. And again, people don't realize that. No one is telling them that. They're not saying, hey, here's how I kind of frame it. People assume they're gaining so much when they go into retirement, but they're losing a lot. And if we don't have replacements, that's why people waste the first 2 to 3 years trying to figure it out, because they don't have those replacements. And they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't look right and feel right. And yes, I love my grandkids and I like playing golf, but not every day, all the time. I need something more. And if they transitioned with it instead of trying to figure it out when they got there, things would go a lot smoother, a lot quicker.
Well, and this is where Robert really shines. As a retirement activist, focusing on those non-financial aspects of retirement, he promotes not just having a written financial plan, but having a written non-financial plan. He calls this his no regrets retirement plan.
The way to create the ideal no regrets retirement is to create it in the life before you get there, not afterwards. Because that, again, is the other mistake that people make, is they postpone what's important to them. That's why a lot of people say you have to retire to something. That is wrong. It should not be said. You need to retire with something. If you retire to something, you're postponing it. Once I get to retirement, I'm going to start working out, eating healthy, doing this. No, you're not. You're not going to do anything. There's no extra motivation there for you to do it. Do it now. And so when you make the transition, it's with you. It's a lot easier to continue what you're doing. And we know this from Covey's 7 habits. First, we make our habits, then our habits make us. So don't assume your life is going to be better when you get there, because it's not. You have to work on that transition.
This is where Bob and I have a lot of synergy in our philosophies because we're on Retire with Purpose right now, right? That's our tagline, Retire with Purpose. What's that mean? You don't retire and then find purpose. You retire with that purpose, making it a much smoother transition as you get into retirement. And then there are also some key components. We cover a lot of these key components in our Purpose webinar, which you can catch on retirewithpurpose.com. We walk you through your values, your mission statement in retirement, and so much more. And Robert here shares with us what his 6 key components are of a successful retirement.
If you think about a successful retiree, so think about someone who's a successful retiree, someone you look up to that nailed it, that had a successful career, they made a smooth transition, and things look like they're going well. Well, what have they done? They've done 5 or 6 things, right? They found a way to replace their work identity. They found a way to fill their time with meaningful tasks. They found a way to stay relevant and connected, mentally and physically active, and they feel financially secure and the ability to express their spiritual beliefs in some way. Those are 6 things. The more of those boxes you can check, the more of a successful transition you're going to make.
Yeah, I had a gal ask me recently, how do I decide how to spend my time, how to best and most wisely use my time into retirement to find the most fulfillment? And it really leads us back to a values question and a balance question, a balance among these 6 key components. And I think you can customize these 6 key components. This could be spirituality, it could be physical health, it could be social wealth, it could maybe you love golf, and that needs to be included in there. And think of that as a values wheel. If one of those areas is not being completely fulfilled, then you've got a lumpy wheel and it's not going to run real smoothly. And this, again, is why we need a no regrets retirement plan. This is why we need a written non-financial retirement plan as well, why we focus on this so much at Howard Bailey. And Robert here is going to share with us why he says financial planners should vaccinate their clients and not in the way you're probably thinking.
Well, I call it vaccinating clients. And I think the financial professional industry, we need to do a better job of, we don't have to be counselors. They don't want to be a coach. We're not doing therapy. We have to raise awareness and vaccinate people. And, if you think about when little kids are vaccinated, a small amount of something negative is inserted into them and they build up their defenses. We got to quit lying about retirement. It's not this perfect Pollyanna phase where it all just comes together. You've got to do this work. And if we're upfront with people about that and help them write down, this is what I preach, a written non-financial plan, like literally, what does a perfect day and a perfect week look like in retirement? Most people can't do it. They can write down a perfect day, but you get to a perfect week, they're by Wednesday or Thursday, like, wait a minute, it's Groundhog's Day. Like, that's a lot of time to fill. But there are simple things our industry can do to really help people see this. And of course, if you're married and you guys do that, a spouse, they look at each other's like, we're not on the same page. We're not even in the same book. And it's those little things that, again, can really help people make a much better transition.
Well, Lee, and I think I was blessed enough to get vaccinated myself a few years ago. With the birth of our second son, we were forced to relocate for health reasons where we could be near a special hospital for him. And when we did that, I thought, well, I'm just going to take a few months off, enjoy myself, just relax. Well, about 2-3 weeks go by, and now I'm starting to feel a little lost. I'm starting to feel a loss of purpose, a loss of connection, a loss of meaning. I was missing something. And a lot of those things I was missing, they had to do with my values, those things that really get me driven and excited about living life. And a lot of those elements came out of my work. And not working, I lost a lot of those elements. And I had to figure out how to recreate those things during the months that we were relocated. And that is why this has become so important to me and our philosophy at Howard Bailey.
I think it's important to a lot of people. Just was talking with a friend who recently retired, and his answer was, man, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. And I thought, you know what? He needs to hook up with Casey and learn about retiring with purpose. That's episode 186 of the podcast if you'd like to hear more from Robert Loria. But, it's important to have more than just the emotional side of your retirement covered. You do have to have the financial side covered as well. And a good place to start is to sit down with a member of the Howard Bailey team for a complimentary review of just how well configured you are to deal with all those financial uncertainties that come with retirement. Things like health crises, a stock market crash, inflation, who knows? Many different things can go wrong, and you need to be financially prepared so it doesn't spill over into your emotional side of your retirement as well. So I hope you're one of the next 10 callers at 866-482-9559 and schedule a meeting with a member of the Howard Bailey team to review just how well set up you are for retirement. That's 866-482-9559, and I hope you'll make that call now because it's very important to cover both sides of those retirement years. All right, when we come back, Marshal Johnson joins Casey to take a look at how you should avoid retirement biases so that you don't leave behind a tool that you might find helpful. Back to this.
Are you making the most of your Social Security benefit? Filing strategies are complex, so if you want to maximize your hard-earned dollars, you need to make informed decisions regarding your unique situation. Not only do you need to decide whether to file early or wait until your full retirement age, but you also need to know of the potential tax implications you could face. Learn how to harness the best strategy for Social Security filing when it comes to your retirement by downloading our complimentary Social Security Guide. Go to retirewithpurpose.com/Social Security.
Welcome back to Retire with Purpose, and we are now joined by my good friend and co-host of the Retire with Purpose podcast, Marshal Johnson.
Glad to be here.
And every Friday, what Marshall and I do is we get together on the podcast and we discuss one of the 4 articles that we sent out as part of our weekend reading for retirees email series. What that is an email you receive every Friday with 4 articles on trending topics in the retirement planning space, all designed to keep you on top of those latest trends so you can make better decisions while you're in retirement. We're going to spotlight one of those articles with you right now that was actually podcast episode number 162. You can catch that at retirewithpurpose.com. Get a link to the article as well. This article comes to us from Forbes, titled Retirement Tools That Are Often Misunderstood But Useful.
Excellent article, right? Steve Parrish wrote this article, and if I ever see a Steve Parrish article come to the top of our news feed, I'm going to read it, right?
Yeah.
Retirement researcher, he's been a previous guest on the podcast, takes a very academic approach to retirement income planning.
Yeah, we love our retirement researchers at Howard Bailey. You know, those individuals that are at the top of their game, taking an academic approach, digging into the latest research to help you make better retirement decisions. Steve Parrish is one of those many individuals we've interviewed on the podcast around this very topic. And the reason that Steve's was downloaded so many times was because being a professor of finance, teaching in the CHFC program, the CLU program, the RICP program, being a professor in the legal arena as well, he tells us about his own retirement transition. And throughout this process, he found that there were a lot of useful tools that are often poo-pooed by the general public.
Yeah, well, it comes out of his frustration, right? He tells a story about in just 1 week, he had a friend and an attorney and just these people that are sharing their frustrations about particular topics or tools that he finds that can be useful in the right situation, but they're often overlooked because of that bias.
Well, and I asked Steve during our interview, I said, did this really happen? Did you really have a week like this? He said, yeah. During this week, he had a reporter that called him and said, hey, you know, I heard annuities are really bad. Can you tell me about them?
Right.
And he goes, annuities aren't bad. Then he gets a friend that has an elderly mother who says, hey, I'm looking for options for my elderly mother. And he says, have you looked into reverse mortgages? He goes, well, is that all you got?
Yeah.
And then he's at a legal conference, and there's an attorney that's talking about another attorney badly, saying, oh, that's just one of those attorneys at Hawks Living Trust. And he goes, well, these things aren't inherently bad.
Right. Yeah, and you have to understand that we all come from different experiences. We all have different backgrounds. We've all used certain products and not other products. And sometimes it's just a word of mouth, or we read an article or saw an advertisement that said, well, I hate annuities and you should too.
Well, and if I may, Steve's really big on checking your sources.
Yeah.
And when it comes to checking your sources,
right?
you have to check your own source sometimes. That experience that you had, is that really the way that it happened? Are you being totally honest with yourself? Marshall and I have different views on how we originally met. And my wife and I probably see that just a little bit differently at the same time. When you talk about pundits, he shared with us during that interview that you need to check your resources because these pundits always have something to sell. Are they trying to sell a product or a service? Are they just trying to serve you headlines that get you to click and get your attention, get you to sign up for a newsletter? So pay attention to those things.
Yeah, the right opportunity may present planning opportunities, and sometimes these planning opportunities are overlooked because of that bias. And the first thing that he talked about was this interviewer that said, hey, well, all annuities are bad, right?
Yeah, well, and this was the insurance realm. And I think a lot of individuals have, well, you either love insurance or you hate insurance. And he talks about annuities. He talks about long-term care insurance. He talks about life insurance, you know, where a lot of these tools, you'll find the individuals say, well, you only use life insurance if you you die, so why would I ever use it? You'll see individuals that say never buy long-term care insurance because the premiums cost too much. But these are tools that provide tax-free death benefits to your heirs, provide your loved ones with the ability to live independently in the facility of their choice, and it's the most efficient way, dollar for dollar, to pay for long-term care insurance. So these are just a few of those sources. Another one would be housing.
Yeah, housing, reverse mortgages. When his friend said, well, my mom really needs income, she's running out of money, what should we do? You know, looking at the trend in reverse mortgages, a lot has changed over the years. Now we have home equity conversion mortgages, and they've gotten rid of a lot of the predatory side of that lending. And so they are viable tools that sometimes we just dismiss because of a late night television ad.
Yeah, well, should a 25-year-old be getting a fixed rate annuity? Probably not. No. Should a 25-year-old be getting a reverse mortgage? Probably not. But that doesn't mean that everyone shouldn't have these tools as resources. Again, they're just tools when it comes to the legal side of things. He touches on living trusts.
Yeah.
And living trusts are often picked on. They say, well, why would I need a living trust when I could just put beneficiaries on my assets? Sure. I could put a beneficiary on my home, a beneficiary on my checking account, my life insurance, my annuity policies, my brokerage accounts. I could have beneficiaries on these, so why would I ever need a trust? But I'm here to tell you, my dad will tell you over and over again that the living trust that they had established for my grandmother, that was one of the best estate planning practices they implemented, and it really made the whole process much smoother upon her passing.
And it may not be right for everybody. And I think that's the point where you have to understand, you have to hear this bias and learn to be aware of your own bias, but also start to challenge that skepticism.
Yeah, it depends is a retirement truism.
True.
You know, finance is nuanced, like so many other things in life. And when I had an interview recently with world poker champion Annie Duke, who is also someone who studied her PhD in cognitive sciences, she studied decision science. Yeah, this is someone that knows how to make really good decisions and spot a bluff. So one of my questions during our interview was, hey, Annie, how do you spot a bluff?
Right.
Because what are you trying to accomplish when you sit down with a financial advisor? I think first and foremost, you're trying to find out if you can trust the person that's sitting across the table from you. And she said, compare it to poker. When someone goes all in, if they take a hard line, they're probably bluffing. And she said that carries over very well to the financial world, the financial planning space. If you're sitting down with someone that takes a hard line to say life insurance is bad, long-term care insurance is bad, reverse mortgages are bad, you should never have a living trust, you should never have an annuity, then that's a huge red flag in her own words, and that's how she would spot a bluff. Retirement finance, it's nuanced, and your financial planner should take an open-minded approach and realize that those nuances exist.
Yeah, Frank Zappa had a famous quote that he said, a mind is like a parachute, it only works when it's open. So we have to be open-minded, don't accept all criticisms as valid. Do your own research. Dig in with Steve Parrish and some of the other retirement researchers that are out there to get the facts and the truth for your situation.
Yeah, and we'd like to offer you that opportunity today where you can get a complimentary consultation with a member of our team. We can sit down and address some of these maybe misconceptions that you may have heard out there in the world. Word of mouth, your neighbor, your financial advisor, are these things true? Give us a call or text the number on your screen, and we will provide you with a complimentary, unbiased opinion of where you stand today and where you could go in the future. Stick around, because up next, we're going to be discussing college funding. We're going to be discussing unique challenges that women face in retirement. And if you have one of those disinterested spouses when it comes to finance, we're going to see if we can solve that for you as well.
Are you making the most of your Social Security benefit? Filing strategies are complex, so if you want to maximize your hard-earned dollars, you need to make informed decisions regarding your unique situation. Not only do you need to decide whether to file early or wait until your full retirement age, but you also need to know of the potential tax implications you could face. Learn how to harness the best strategy for Social Security filing when it comes to your retirement by downloading our complimentary Social Security Guide. Go to retirewithpurpose.com/Social Security.
This is the part of the program where Casey answers your questions, makes it real easy to do. All you have to do is go to retirewithpurpose.com, scroll down on the page. In the corner there, you'll find a little text window. Enter your question. It comes to Casey, and we may answer it here on the air. And our first question, Casey, is about from someone who's looking for more ways to get my spouse interested in managing our finances and more involved in our retirement plan.
Yeah. Well, Lee, I think the important part there is to be able to speak their language. I know for me and my wife, first thing I want to do is pull out the spreadsheets. I want to pull out the spreadsheets and go through the numbers, the retirement planning software, and those things get me excited. But that doesn't necessarily get her excited. What drives me doesn't drive her. You have to figure out what truly drives your spouse when it comes to money and finances. What does this mean to them? Are they right-brained, left-brained? I know for myself, what drives me is being job optional. I want to know that I never have to work again. So we're in that position where we don't have to work anymore, and we get to have the freedom of doing the things we want to do when we want to do them, making an impact in the places we want to make an impact. Now for her, it's about experiences. The driver isn't financial freedom. And this is just the way that we grew up was so different. For her, it's those experiences, taking the kids on vacation or going somewhere together over the weekend, having a nice meal out together and spending quality time together. It goes back to our love languages too. I mean, her love language is quality time. Well, that's what's important to her when it comes to money. So I think you have to find those things with your spouse so you can speak their language and then have money dates. My wife and I, we go on money dates. And this is a concept that was actually brought to us by one of our past podcast guests who specialized in relationships and money. And she talked about this specifically, having those money dates where you sit down and you don't pull out the spreadsheet, you just talk about what's going on financially in your life. Where are you spending money? What's it mean to you? Did you make a good purchase this week, last week? Was it a bad purchase? And you really get to the root of money and you learn to speak each other's language. And Lee, I know you have some thoughts on this as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to understand what your spouse doesn't want to address in that meeting and come to an agreement on, okay, this is what we are going to cover, and we'll either hold this or put this one off a little bit later. But I like your idea of understanding and getting on the same page.
You'd be surprised by how many arguments we've been able to facilitate over the years when we sit down and have these conversations.
Yeah.
Because many times couples have not talked about money or finance in this way their entire lives. And they quickly find out, wow, we have completely different goals. You want to spend it all, and I want to leave it all to the kids. And then we have to reconcile these differences.
Well, I think talking about money is just real important. And I just shared with Casey a moment ago, because I've worked with you for a while now, I now talk with my kids about money more often and differently than I ever have before. I think that's a real important thing for parents to do. Yeah. All right, let's get on to our next question. What are the tax benefits of contributing to our grandkids' 529 plan? How much should we contribute to reap the benefits?
Well, that is a difficult question, and that is because it's state by state. So not knowing what state you're in, I can't say exactly what the tax benefits would be, because again, the tax benefits are not at the federal level, they're at the state level. And so when we talk about those contributions, and let's just go with the state of Indiana. The state of Indiana is probably where you're at, and this is where we have the best tax benefits across all the other states out there in the country. And that is because we receive a 20% tax credit up to a $5,000 contribution level. And so that's 20% of $5,000, that's $1,000 that you get back. And we'll have sometimes individuals make those $5,000 contributions, take the tax credit and give it to the kids that year for Christmas, or take that extra $1,000 and reinvest it in the plan as additional money and just say, hey, we had a 20% guaranteed return on our money when we put $5,000 in there in year one. That's a huge tax benefit because that is a tax credit, not a tax deduction. Big difference between the two. Now you have to be careful with these limits. How much can you contribute to a 529 plan? Because you can contribute up to $15,000. It is considered a gift when you make these contributions. So if you contribute over $15,000, then it is going to be, and that is per beneficiary, then it could begin to require you to file a gift tax return, reduce your unified gift and estate tax exemption as well. And you can compile these. So you could do 5 years of gifts in 1 year. So you could do $75,000 per beneficiary all at once, but you're not going to reap those tax benefits, that tax credit, that 20% tax credit on that whole $75,000. So you want to keep that in mind, and that's why it might not be the best idea to do such large contributions over and above $5,000 per year unless you're trying to reduce the size of your estate due to estate tax limits.
All right, and let's get a question from Cindy, who writes, I know in general women outlive their husbands. How do we best plan for higher taxes and smaller Social Security checks, especially when a spouse passes, then income and your tax bracket change?
Yeah, that's 100% true. And I'm glad you're recognizing that, Cindy, because I think most of the time spouses, specifically the women in the marriage, aren't entirely recognizing this. Their husbands aren't entirely recognizing this. The times that we meet with just 1 out of 2 spouses, it's rare, but it does happen. But when it happens, it's usually the husband on average that's coming in, visiting with us, and wants us to put together this financial plan that he'll probably never find out if it works out or not. Because 85% of men, on average, 85% of men will die married. Who's going to find out if that financial plan actually worked or not? It's going to be the woman in the relationship. It's going to be that wife in the relationship. This is why we're so strongly encourage men to bring in their wives. The women need to be present for these meetings. When it comes to taxes, I think that's the biggest thing here. Social Security, delay the largest of the 2 Social Security benefits because the surviving spouse gets the larger of the 2. When it comes to taxes, think about this. There was a good point made there. If you have $70,000 in income while you're married, today that lands you in the 12% federal bracket. And if you still have $70,000 in income as a single individual after your spouse passes away, which you probably do, your income probably doesn't change a whole lot because your needs don't change a whole lot. Your federal bracket just went from 12 to 22%. That's almost a doubling in the amount of taxes you have to pay.
Okay, ladies, so we've talked a lot about the special considerations that you have in retirement. So you have our permission to call and make the appointment and then drag your husband along. Maybe that's the right way to play it. And if you'd like to do that and sit down with a member of the Howard Bailey team, it's a great idea to understand what are all of the challenges that you're going to face in retirement, particularly as a potential female survivor of your husband, and how can you accommodate for all of those? The bottom line here is the Howard Bailey team wants to take the guesswork out of planning for you, and that initial meeting is a great place to start. So be one of the next 10 people to call 866-482-9559. That's 866-482-9559, and get on the calendar and schedule that meeting with a member of the Howard Bailey team. Hope you will do that, and I also hope that you'll be joining us next week for another edition of Retire with Purpose.